All right. Hello, and welcome to the Daily Space for today, April 22nd, 2020. I am your host, Annie Wilson, and most Mondays through Fridays, our team will be here putting science into your brain. Usually Wednesdays are for Rocket Roundup, and we've had essentially another week with no launches. This is just how it is sometimes. Let's get to it, shall we? So, first up, we actually had humans come back from space. So, April 17th at 5:16 a.m. UTC, Jessica Meir, Oleg Stripochka, and Andrew Morgan landed near Jezkazgan? I am so sorry. Jezkazgan, Kazakhstan. From there, they were literally pulled out of the capsule, placed in reclining chairs to help them adjust to the increased gravity on Earth. This was also a chance for flight surgeons and medical teams to take the returning spacefarers' vitals, including checking things like blood pressure, pulse, and temperature. The steppes of Kazakhstan are notorious for a complete lack of all things civilized other than rockets. There are no cell phone towers. So instead of a cell phone, crew members used an Intelsat satellite phone to call loved ones. The seated astronauts and cosmonaut are then carried to their all-terrain vehicles for the relatively short ride to the nearby waiting helicopters. Each crew member and their team is then loaded into individual helicopters for the 2.5-hour flight to Baikonur. This is when they finally have a chance to change out of their bulky landing suits. Upon landing in Baikonur, American astronauts Mir and Morgan flew to Houston, while Russian cosmonaut Stripochka flew to Moscow. And they... Oh. Okay, I got the satellite phone name wrong. It is not Intelsat, it's Iridium. It's Iridium. That is my bad. My apologies. Anyways, we have video of some of this process, and the quality is kind of bad. There's not much that can be done about the quality because, remember, middle of nowhere Kazakhstan.
At the landing site, you can see the Soyuz is indeed on its side, and search and recovery forces are working to extract the crew from the capsule.
I thought this was I'd never seen this done, and I thought it was a pretty interesting process. So I think when they landed, that they were face down in the capsule. Like, obviously they weren't, or on their sides or something. Like, I don't think they were on their backs. And the way that they're pulled out is that they're pulled out on their backs. And they're going to pull out the Russian cosmonaut first. And they're getting ready to pull him out.
You can see the teams wearing masks. This is a precautionary measure. It's part of the pre-planned measures implemented by the Russian search and recovery forces in order to protect all involved in the recovery of the crew and the crew themselves.
Literally carrying him to a chair. Literally carrying him to a chair. They put him in the chair.
We've got a view of Commander Oleg Stripochka first out of the hatch.
Welcome back, guys. please step away. Please keep the distance, as the president has told us. Oleg, you probably can't recognize anybody with all these masks.
Again, that's Commander Oleg Skropochka getting his first breath of fresh air in 6 months after having spent 205 days aboard the International Space Station, bringing his career total of days in space to 536.
And you can see there one of the flight surgeons, medical technician, medical team. I'm not sure what their role is. She's checking his blood ox level on the finger, and I believe she's checking his blood pressure and possibly his pulse. There's a little cuff that you'll see come off later.
You can see Skropochka is seated outside of the capsule. It's a beautiful day at the landing site, about 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Once NASA astronauts Andrew Morgan and Jessica Meir are brought out of the capsule, they'll have a chance to sit down as well to regain their equilibrium after such a long time in microgravity before being moved to those helicopters.
And yes, I know that one particular person is not wearing their mask correctly. They may have asthma, which makes it difficult to breathe through the mask. And that, and not being able to breathe would cause other problems, etc., etc., etc. So don't get too angry if you don't see masks covering noses. You don't know if somebody can breathe or not.
Oleg, do you recognize us?
I do enjoy how
Commander
he's just
Oleg
chilling.
Skropochka now donning some sunglasses to help him readjust to that bright sunlight that he hasn't experienced in over 205 days.
And this is Jessica.
Put him right here, right here.
And now out of the capsule, NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, having returned from 205 days in space, her first mission aboard the International Space Station.
And yes, the astronauts and cosmonaut will be quarantined further because their
That's Jessica.
immune systems are already weak from being in space. Plus, they're coming back down into a pandemic. So you can see there, they're taking Jessica's temperature.
Jessica Meir sharing some smiles
I think.
as NASA flight doctors
Maybe I was
conduct
wrong.
a post-landing medical check.
And then here
And we
is
have
Andrew
the
Morgan.
extraction of Andrew Morgan, having returned from 272 days aboard the International Space Station, almost 9 months on his first mission away from Earth.
He will look a little ill. For whatever reason, Oleg and Jessica just came back and were laying and chilling. And
landing at approximately 12:16 a.m. Central Time and 11:16 a.m. Kazakhstan time, Earth has regained 3 of its residents. Roscosmos' Oleg Skripochka, and NASA's Jessica Meir and Andrew Morgan.
But you'll see him leaning forward in a second. Yes, I will copy the link that has everything.
Crew members are now getting the chance to talk with family members on the phones. They will soon board helicopters in their white Sokol suits, those launch entry suits you see them wearing now. They will.
Okay, and that stopped. The link I shared in chat, which is the whole NASA video, has everything. The landing, them getting into their ATVs, things of that nature. The whole video is over 2 hours. It's well over an hour and a half long. I showed you maybe 8 minutes of it, and there's a lot. The landing video wasn't the greatest. You would have been watching it on... It would have been a screen captured by a camera. So the landing video wasn't the greatest because NASA crews could not be on site. They had a very minimized recovery team. Very minimized recovery team. So there was no NASA on site when they landed. There was no NASA people in the control center other than a camera pointed at the big control board. And you can see the landing footage, but it's not the greatest. And even though this video was kind of grainy, I thought it was pretty amazing. So their whole trip is pretty wild. Their whole trip home is pretty wild. They crash land to Earth, essentially. And then they're carried to their ATVs, which they climb into. And each crew member gets their own ATV. The ATV takes them to the helicopters, which aren't that far away. They're really not. You can see them in the shots of the ATV that the helicopters are just off in the distance, but that's too far to be carried or to walk. Plus, there might be stuff that happens in the ATVs. And then each crew member... My apologies. Each crew member then goes into their own helicopter, and that's where they get to change, and there's probably a whole bunch of other things because their medical team goes with them. But I hadn't ever seen the pulling them out of the capsule before, and I thought that was interesting, so I figured I would share with you. Anyways, on to our next story, because we got more. Speaking of Intelsat, which I got the phone mixed up, and I thought the phone was an Intelsat phone instead of an Iridium phone. My bad. Speaking of satellites, Intelsat recently announced that IS-901 is once again fully operational thanks to a little help from MEV-1. Regular listeners may recall that we talked about MEV-1 on Daily Space about a month ago when the satellites made contact on February 25th. Basically, MEV-1 is designed to attach itself to a satellite that is out of propellant and act as its motors to keep it in the correct orientation and orbit. This means that a satellite that has ran out of propellant but is otherwise healthy can have its useful life extended up to 5 years before moving the satellite back out into a graveyard orbit. And this is an image of IS-901 as seen against the backdrop of the planet Earth. This was taken by MEV-1 as it approached. The mission didn't quite go off without a hitch. There were several attempts before docking was successful. Contributing to the difficulty of the operation was the fact that at the time IS-901 was built, on-orbit servicing was barely a hypothetical concept reserved for specifically constructed systems like the Hubble Space Telescope. Servicing anything beyond low Earth orbit was considered extremely futuristic. But patience and perseverance paid off, according to a statement by Jean-Luc Froliger, Intelsat's Vice President for Space Systems Engineering and Operations. Quote, "It proves that in-orbit servicing is real. This was a project that took years in the planning. We had identified Intelsat 901 3 years ago and decided it's healthy, but it's going to run out of fuel in early 2020. And so rather than having discard the satellite and retire it, we teamed up with Northrop Grumman to do this in-orbit servicing mission." End quote. Currently, IS-901 is scheduled to remain in service for at least the next 5 years, after which the plan is to retire the ComSat back into a graveyard orbit. That will allow MEV-1 to perform the same 5-year mission on up to 2 other geostationary spacecraft before its fuel and planned service life are expended. However, if there are no follow-on missions for MEV-1 at that time, and if IS-901 is still healthy, meaning instruments on board are in good working order, Intelsat may choose to lease the extension vehicle's services for up to 10 more years. Because of the success of MEV-1, Intelsat has made a few adjustments to its plans regarding MEV-2. Rather than moving IS-1002 to a graveyard orbit before rendezvous, Intelsat has decided that that particular satellite will remain in active service when MEV-2 docks with the aging satellite. MEV-2 has already finished construction and was originally scheduled to be launched sometime later this year, but the launch has been postponed due to delays related to the ongoing pandemic. Yeah. Anyways, for our last story of the day, Starlink. Love it or hate it, Starlink is a thing. To the dismay of many astronomers and the delight of satellite spotters, the satellite trains can be spotted from many places here on Earth. And now, they can be seen from space. On April 13th, a camera aboard the ISS captured a Starlink train above the Southern Lights. The train was first noticed by Twitter user Ricardo Rossi, and later Twitter user at PHI48 contacted Dutch satellite tracker Dr. Marco Langbroek? I am so sorry. Who then assigned probable identities to the objects. Dr. Langbroek said this train is from the Starlink 4 launch that occurred on February 17th of this past year. It's a cool image. It is super cool. I know this is a love it or hate it thing. But there you go. Alright, to wrap things up, here's a running tally of a few spaceflight statistics for the current year. So far this year, we've burned up 2 satellites in orbit. We have 345 new satellites in orbit. That includes those launched from like the International Space Station and craft departing the International Space Station directly from launches. We have 331 new satellites. I keep track of orbital launches by where they were launched from, known as their spaceport. Here's that breakdown. Total 2020 successful launches are 23, with an additional 4 failures. Total attempts by country. USA 9, China 8, Kazakhstan 3, French Guiana 2, Russia 2, New Zealand 1, Japan 1, Iran 1. And your useless space fact for the week comes to us from Patrick Doyle. Venus is the only planet in our solar system where the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. And that's it. That's all I have for you. That rounds out our show for today. Thank you everybody for listening. I'm trying to scooch everything. go ahead and ask questions while you're doing that. This has been a production of Planetary Science Institute, 501c3 nonprofit located in Tucson, Arizona. And today's script was written by Dave. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Dave Ballard, Gordon Dewis, and myself, and edited by all three of us. Our producer is Susie Murph, and our fearless leader is Dr. Pamela Gay. All right, so let me appease the dogs. Let me appease the dogs. Come here, dogs. I have created monsters. I have created monsters. All right, so let me scroll back up. We already covered the errata. And yeah. So also, hello, Tropical Tom, and I'm happy to hear that 1300 has become the happiest time of day. We're happy you're here with us. And yes, in order to get the cosmonauts and astronauts out, they had to break social isolation. They had to break social distancing. The astronauts and the cosmonaut had to break social isolation. And more bits. And the dogs are like, we're going to get some of that banana bread, Mom. Puck didn't eat breakfast, so I don't feel bad. And Astro Wise is popping up with Jezgazgan. I know. I know they do all the pronunciations, but NASA is still using the old spelling, or not just, it might not be just NASA, but a lot of places that covered the landing were also using the old spelling that hasn't been accurate since 1992 of the village town that they landed outside of. So, yeah. Larry says, the Earth's gravity increased. I have long suspected that. The gravity that they're experiencing is way increased compared to what they were used to. So, yeah. I did not. Tropical Tom asked, why were there no photos of landing or parachute deployment? Because I was focusing on the crew, honestly. I don't know. I linked the video earlier. I linked the video earlier where you can see all of that. But again, NASA crew wasn't really on the ground. There were a lot of photos that I had to choose from the Roscosmos press release, and I deleted a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, I could have had a slideshow just of the landing, but I really honestly did not have enough words to fill an entire slideshow with all of the landing. So there was coverage. There were photos from the press release. There's so much. And Pamela says their backs are parallel to the heat shield, so they can be in any orientation with back perpendicular to the ground if the capsule is on its side. I spent, I don't know how much time yesterday trying to figure out which orientation that they were in, and I have pretty much settled on that they were face down because of some of just how the straps were hanging, because it looked like the straps were pulling them down. I don't know. So, yeah. The landing team probably was in quarantine, Broken Symmetry. There were so many things to make this go right and to keep, these vulnerable humans from getting COVID. So, yeah. Hanny says, I'd be like, can I stay up here till around June? Thanks. The Soyuz craft can't actually stay docked for more than, I think it's half a year. They can only be docked for so long. Maybe it is more than half a year. Let me look that up real quick, because now I wonder. But the Soyuz craft can only stay docked for so long. See if I can find that real quick. Da, 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 da. I cannot. But yeah, they can't stay docked forever. They actually have a kind of expiration date on it. So that is part of the problem. Astro Wise asks, is it true that immune response decreases on ISS? Part of the research they are doing at one point. Yes, their immune response does decrease from their time spent on the ISS, and their immune systems are weak, and they, I believe, are considered immunocompromised right now. They need some time to ramp back up, and they're going to take some extra time back at their respective space bases, just being in quarantine. So, yeah. Clack, clack, clack. Someone hasn't gone mirrorless yet. Yeah. There wasn't, as pointed out, because people are asking, hey, is there any video of the landing? There wasn't good video of the landing. There's good photos, but not good thing. But yeah, it was mostly Russia everything. Da. I know, Tinker, I know. Handy says, wow, just got back from space and then they got on ATVs. So the ATVs aren't... ATV is just a generic term for an all-terrain vehicle, right? So this isn't an ATV or a four-wheeler that you just hop onto. This is one that you get into. It looks like a very large, up-armored Humvee that's very long. I don't know. I didn't include any pictures, but part of the video that was later on shows Oleg essentially getting up, standing on his own 2 feet, and pulling himself into that ATV. It's just an enclosed vehicle. And later on in the video, you can see them sipping water. Morgan looked like he was having a really rough time. So, yeah. Haney's asked, when do they go home? The astronauts are already back in the US, and I don't know when they get released from quarantine. So it's going to be a while. Ambius asks, why not deorbit the satellite at that point? Meaning at the end of contract or life for between Intelsat 901 and MEV. Deorbiting is much further down than dragging it out to graveyard orbit. If you drag something out to graveyard orbit and they bump around and hit each other, usually active satellites aren't affected, but the amount of fuel that it would take for MEV to drag something down to deorbit it and then save itself from being deorbited is, I feel like it's much higher than the amount of fuel needed to drag it out to graveyard orbit and bring itself back out of graveyard orbit. So yeah, that's why it's not being that's why it's being dragged out to graveyard orbit rather than deorbited. things that are much lower in orbit, like Starlink and sometimes CubeSats, are much easier to be deorbited. And Tinker is training me. Have some banana bread, Tinker. So, yeah, they're pretty high up. So, and he says maybe in the future we can scrounge the graveyard orbit for parts. Maybe. See, I knew Starlink is one of those things that people either love or hate. Like coriander. Or cilantro. Or, yeah. And there are people that love and hate it at exactly the same thing. So, Fenmill asks, are we down to a month for Crew Dragon yet? Yes. Yes, we are. It's supposed to happen in May. So let me check Rocket Launch Live again. Let's see if they updated their thing. They have Rocket Launch Live. Oh wait, yeah, it still says that it doesn't even know what time zone I'm in. I don't even know what time zone I'm in. Anyways, Rocket Launch Live says that May 27th is the date for the American astronauts from American soil in an American craft on an American rocket. Yeah. And yes, we've burned up 2 toilets, not 2 satellites. So, yeah. And yes, Hanny, having it the reverse would be very confusing your first morning on Venus. So, scroll down. DPIS, how old is Eddie and what is Malachi? I don't know how old Eddie is. And there were bits. Puck is looking very intense. Here, how about you come around here? Come on. Over here. Come on. He's trying to navigate around the green screen. Come on. Up. Alright. And I'm not looking at what I need to look at, so give me 1 second. Come on, mouse. Come on, mouse. Alright, come here. Up. There. Have some banana bread. You didn't eat breakfast, so I don't feel bad. You can get these crumbs on my leg. He's like, what crumbs, Mom? Yeah, those crumbs. Yeah, good boy. Good boy. It's me and the dogs eating banana bread. And nobody else. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that arc. The funniest videos are of recently returned astronauts just trying to leave stuff hanging in the air. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hanny's asked, I wonder if astronauts' families were pre-quarantined for their arrival. I believe so. Somebody else had mentioned earlier that that Jessica Mears' family was pre-quarantined. And I think Anne McClain had pre-quarantined too. Open Cage has an orbital words are hard. Fast west, slow east, low west, high east. I don't know what any of that means. Trillian asks, will the Dragon crew capsules become part of the lifeboat system on ISS? Yes. Yes, they will. Anything that brings humans up is part of the lifeboat system. Dragon is going to make it a little tricky for me to keep track of toilets and stuff because I don't know exactly where the toilets are in Dragon. They say that they're in there. I don't know if this is some top secret stuff or it's just stuff that most people don't care about, but I want to know where the toilet is. So, yeah. But only, yeah, as Ernestro points out, only the crew versions of the Dragon will be lifeboats. What? The new crew Dragons will not have life support systems? What? I thought they would. There should be dogs and cats to return greeting astronauts. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to catch up. PM Urancha asks, so if I want to launch my own satellite, what medians do I have to go through to actually launch? I don't think I quite understand your question, but you usually would want to, I would talk to, Rocket Lab about launching, so. Hanny's asked, aren't you UTC +6? Yeah, but right now Rocket Launch Live says I'm +5, and I think it's the time change thing that screws me up because that's why I have a hard time remembering what time zone I'm in. DPI on the no life support systems on on the Crew Dragon says American astronauts soiling American spacesuits. Yeah. Tropical Tom says, I bet Battlebread would look cool deorbiting. So apparently Starstrider, for those of you like, what? Battlebread? What? Apparently Starstrider made bread and it was really hard on the outside. So, yeah. Hanny about astronauts just trying to hang things in space. Don't hand your astronaut spouse your wine, glasses, or heirlooms. He went to float to the bathroom. No, that does not work so well. Not at all. Bad Panda Bear says, I believe there's an astronaut jokes that amounts to FFS, don't hand them the baby. Oh, the cargo dragon. Wait, so now I'm confused. Do the crew dragons have life support systems? Because they should have life support systems. I don't expect the cargo dragons to have life support systems. This is how far behind on the chat I am. The cargo dragons never did have life support before, and yes, the trunk was always unpressurized. The internal part of the cargo dragons were pressurized. So, okay, Pamela says we are UTC +5. Oh, you're welcome, PM Me or Nachos. I like captions, and I know these aren't the greatest, and I know they may not always be the easiest to read, but once I added them for Community Coffee, it was pretty easy to just be like, well, I'm going to add them to everything, especially since I don't have dog cam up right now. So, make it into breadcrumbs. Yeah, Battle Bread might have to be turned into breadcrumbs. Okay, so I've reached the bottom of chat, which feels like a small victory. A small victory. Yes, PM me your nachos. I am definitely a fan of closed captioning. I try to turn on any. I'm not particularly hard of hearing, but it helps. Any TV I watch typically has captions on it. Most of my YouTube videos have captions. I think I just have captions on by default. If the YouTube video supports captioning, it'll caption. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Video games, I try to turn on captioning with when I can, and it gets annoying when they're not there. And it's one of those easily overlooked things that can be helpful for so many people. Starstrider, I just use webcaptioner.com, and I put it into a little Chrome window because it works with Chrome, and you can set the background on the caption page for chroma green, and when you plop it in as a source, you just tell it to chroma key. Boom. They made it super easy to just plop it into something, and it's free. They will ask you for a donation every time you stop captioning, but it's free. All right, Tinkerbell. I have not eaten. I brought up a whole slice of banana bread. I haven't even eaten any of it, and y'all are begging me for more. So, can the font have shading? I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. I was trying. I had it up against a black background because I think the stars make it a little more difficult to read. We might switch to a background without the stars. So I still have the same blue textured background, just no stars, and that should make it easier to read. You can change a whole lot of things. So it has a tiny shadow. It has a tiny shadow. I didn't even think about yellow text. You know what? Let's try that out right now. So you're going to see part of it. So settings, appearance, text color, we can turn to yellow, and we'll turn the interim text color to white, and boom. And then we'll close that, and there we go. I'm not sure if it's easier to read, but that's what we go. This is webcaptioner.com. Let me copy paste the address so everybody has it correctly. Paste. And I can't tell if the yellow helps or not. White is better than yellow? Okay. So how about we go back into settings, and people on YouTube are going to be like, WTF. Hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, you should really be watching us on Twitch, because that's where all the fun is. That's where all the fun is. How about that? Oh, wait. It has to catch up. Yeah, I think the white looks better. Yeah, the yellow was very washed out. I was hoping. And now I have the interim stuff as like a very, very light gray, and I see a difference on the screen, but it's not a big difference. Once it's finalized, it'll go to white. Like that. So, all right. So, looks like the end of the questions. We are rapidly approaching the top of the top. Yeah, we're rapidly approaching the top S of the hour. Um, Brimple made a joke about yellow. Oh my. Oh my. But yeah, so we're rapidly approaching the top of the hour. It's going to be a while before the launch is ready, but it will be streamed here. We're working on it. We're working on it. So yeah, this was Daily Space. This was Rocket Roundup. Again, I was your host, Annie Wilson. Today's script was written by myself, Dave Ballard, and Gordon Dewis, and probably edited by all three of us, honestly. And again, our producer is Susie Murph, and our fearless leader is Dr. Pamela Gay. We are a product of PSI, that is Planetary Science Institute, located in Tucson, Arizona. They're a 501c3 nonprofit, so you can do fancy things where you can donate. Speaking of donations, do not, in these plague times, do not feel obligated to donate. Be a patron, subscribe, bits. Don't. If it's gonna put you in a hard spot, or it might put you in a hard spot, don't. We will be fine. We will be here. Don't worry about it. We're going to be okay. The plague is awful, and some people can't pay rent. And please, please, please buy groceries. Pay your rent, pay your bills before donating to us. Please. Take care of yourselves. And yes, that includes financially. This is the weirdest don't give us money thing, because I'm used to the give us money spiel. But don't. And there's Dave with the bits, even though we said no bits. Alright. We want to see you guys around, and this isn't, anything. Come here. Come on. Come on. Up. That's your breakfast now. That's your breakfast now. Dave. No. Thank you, but no. I'm not gonna get any of this, am I? Come here, Puck. You didn't get breakfast, so I don't feel bad. You kind of look cute nomming on a whole piece of banana bread. And more from Astro Wise. Thank you guys. You do not have to do this. And more from Keeper. You guys are hilarious. Yes, I know that weird fact. Hey, Tinker. You want in on this? She's off camera, but Tinker's getting some too. Alright, last bit, Puck. Come on. Up. Up. You can do it. There. Alright. Y'all. Anyways. Thank you, everybody. I will see you again Friday, I think. I think I'll see you Friday. Tomorrow morning, I believe, is community coffee. So there will be a bunch of you doing community coffee. And later today, there is the launch and weekly space hangouts. So yeah. But thank you, everybody. You all have been awesome. I'm going to awkwardly roll the credits now, because that's how we do credits. And I will see you all soon. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful insert time of day here. Be kind, do good, wash your hands, and just keep being awesome. Until next time, bye!